Oh, yeah. Can't see it in the viewfinder now. So where are you headed today, Christina?
We're going for a little boat ride.
And it came recommended by who?
By Michelle, my sister-in-law.
All right.
There it is.
I was telling my friend with the shorts on, you're not from Florida. Actually I would be wearing them usually too, so don't. And not just a beautiful day, of course, it's an incredibly good looking group, which I haven't said about an hour. But anyway, thanks for coming, guys. Anybody done this before? Anybody come? Look at y'all. And bring in your friends. Thank you. Always tell everybody, have fun, enjoy this, talk amongst yourselves. We kind of prefer you don't talk a whole lot when I am. Hard to believe this, but sometimes folks want to hear me. But any other time, y'all just chat it up. Here we go. That's good. Anything you want. And if you do have questions, it really does make it more fun. At least for me, it does. We are going to be on 3 different lakes, by the way. This was called Lake Osceola, which is named after the famous Seminole Indian leader. They actually claimed that long before Winter Park was here, Osceola did camp along the shores of these lakes and loved it. And for those of you that are new to Winter Park in general, such a neat town. And just a lot to do here. Obviously, right now, you're doing the best thing. But we do have 3 museums also. And over here to the right is one of the main ones. It's called the Alvin Polacek Museum. He was born in Czechoslovakia, but in his early 20s, he came to the United States and eventually became world-renowned as a sculptor and artist, and then retired to Winter Park and lived in that yellow house right there with his wife. And when he passed away, she left the house and gardens as a shrine and a museum film, which is a great museum. It's also, as you can see, a really pretty place on the water. So they hold a lot of events on that lawn. In my opinion, the most important one, my daughter got married there. I know, still paying for that one just a little bit. And then the gray and white house to the left of it, behind this dock, is on the museum's property, but it's only been there for 4.5 years. I know, the house was built in 1885 though. So that house is called the Capon House, and it used to sit on the other side of this lake. Some people bought it, didn't want it. Locals raised some money to save it and move it here, but they couldn't use the roads to do it because there's so many trees in town. So they actually cut the house in half with chainsaws, built a barge, and floated the house across the lake in 2 pieces. This is all on YouTube, and then spent 2 years putting it back together. So they probably could have built 3 homes for what they spent. But at least we still have a historic home here.
That's amazing.
And 2 doors to the left of it, the older Mediterranean for sale was originally a winter home for the Sinclairs from Sinclair Oil. Had the dinosaur for the logo, if y'all remember that. This is the Fern Canal we're coming into, and although these lakes are natural, the canals that join them were originally just little streams that connected the lakes. And back in the 1870s, before the Winter Park was here, they started cutting down the pines that used to line these lakes to build buildings. And the loggers that cut those pines down are the same guys that hand dug the canal. So they've been here. They did that to float those trees to a sawmill that used to be on the next lake. But the canals have been here like this for about 150 years. Didn't have sides originally, but the canals have been here.
This is cool.
Lots of bamboo. You can see the largest to our right, but as we go through this canal, a lot of different sizes of it. It's not native here, but it grows well. And all the stuff hanging from the trees is called Spanish moss. It's neither Spanish nor moss. I know, but don't figure that one. It's an air plant, technically an epiphyte, which they used for a lot of things back in the early 1900s. They used to stuff mattresses with it. Yeah, found out quickly it's full of bugs, and that's where the expression "don't let the bed bugs bite" first started too. It is an air plant, yeah, absolutely. A pineapple's an air plant too. I mean, it has that relationship. They're both air plants, yeah. I go figure. Anyway, this is where I have y'all stand up and introduce you. No, do not stand up, guys. Watch yourself. Traditionally, at this time of year, the lakes are probably a foot or two lower than this. It's been a pretty rainy winter compared to most of our winters. But the lakes get higher than this too. So this is why we don't have tops on our boats, which we would love to have. Yeah, they just can't. This picture of the live oak branch and the lake in the background has been featured in numerous magazine articles and covers of
You want to use my
magazine
phone?
newspapers too. Squirrels like it too. Let's go through a little bridge for them right here. And this is Lake Virginia. One of the first settlers of this area was from that state, named it after it. A little bigger in Osceola. We actually have 6 lakes on the chain you can get to by canals. We just go on 3, but a lot of other lakes join them by streams too. And
Look at the
they're
bamboo.
spring-fed freshwater natural lakes, which typical Florida are not very deep. So the average depth
place for a
would only
treehouse.
be 10 to 12 feet. But they're deep in places, but that's an average here. We'll talk about Rollins after we've gone all the way around the lake, but here you can see a little bit of the campus and the steeple from their chapel, which is my favorite building on the campus.
where we were.
Named after the founding father of our town, called the Knowles Chapel. It is, yeah. Large enough bath so they go through more, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you like what I've done to it. Over here to the left, you can see a little canal that goes to Lake Moselle. And the Moselles were the first folks to settle here that were not Native Americans. So they came here in 1858 before Winter Park and actually named the lake after themselves. But they did start a very small community called Lakeview, which kind of preceded Winter Park. And the original part of the house to our left, or the original house sits right in the middle. They put really big additions on either side, just moved in recently. But the original house was has been numerous things. It was designed, not like today's, but to be the men's club of Winter Park back in the early 20s. And it also became a professor's house at Rollins, the music conservatory for Rollins a little later, and the house ever since the 70s. That house and the next 3 homes that we go by, all 4 of these sit on Lake Moselle and Lake Virginia, so they get a sunrise over there at Moselle and sunset here on Virginia. Yeah, and if the grass looks too good to be true, it is. It's artificial turf, which actually no water for pollution and no fertilizer to pollute the lakes either. So, and it always looks perfect, just like that. So, it's, pricey on the front end, but pretty cool looking.
Wow, there's a lot of birds.
Yeah, I try to point out bird life, and I'm not referring to these little blackbirds flying over, but over here on the left you can see a bird drying his feathers on these lily pads. So that is an anhinga, but more commonly called a snake bird. They swim underwater, they get waterlogged, they have to dry their feathers, and that's what this one's doing. They're those of you up north are used to cormorants, which we also have. They look similar, but there are definitely some differences. And but we'll probably see cormorants potentially on the next leg, or actually near the end of the trip. The folks that used to live in this house to our left own the house, but also right around 225 acres right here, sitting on 3 lakes. Thought it was so pretty. For years they used to open the dirt road going through here to the public called Genius Drive, which really was what you thought of when you thought of Winter Park. I loved it. Magazines used to list this as one of the prettiest drives in the United States, but it was also full of peacocks, and there's still a bunch of them back here, but that's also why the peacock is a symbol of our town. And the reason there's still about 50 acres that's not developed is they left their home and the undeveloped part is preserved. Sits on all three legs. But they developed the other 175 acres or so for homes that you could drive through. It's called Windsong, named after their home. Definitely could have made a bunch of money selling all this. They did okay. The land was in the same family for about 110 years. They had it for 3 different generations. Not quite. And again, the steeple from the chapel at Rollins over the boathouse. So I'm glad you realize it. Jump. Rollins campus does start on this road right in front of us called Lakeview. And then it goes almost back to where we came into the lake. So they have about 75 acres here on Lake Virginia. The school was started in 1885. It actually is the first private college in the state. And it was started by the Congregational Church. Originally it was a combination of both a prep school and college, really small, about 60 students, cost about $100 a year to go here. Kind of like that land back there, things have changed a little bit. Today with room and board, it's actually the most expensive school in Florida. Right now it's about $65,000 a year to go here. It is considered to be one of the best liberal arts schools in the United States, probably the best in the Southeast. Today, right around 2,000 undergrads, other, night school and some other stuff. Only about 10 students for every professor here. And almost every professor does have a PhD around. So it's an excellent education. Obviously look at it, it's just a really pretty campus. And it might be a little subjective, but the Princeton Review did rank Rollins the prettiest campus in the U.S. in 2015. I know, still rank it up in the top 10. So always good for a walk here. The Shoreline Walk, really one of the favorites. But you want to see the whole campus if you do come, which doesn't take that long. Don't have to be a student to dine at, and they're considered one of the best food programs of any school in the country. So I mean, not for education, but just their cafeteria. And I live right here. I eat here all the time. Orlando Railroad. Nobody ever called it that. The train was so small they nicknamed it the Dinky Line, and that's why that beach is called Dinky Dock right there. It's a park. And if you like history, go online, because there really is some fun stuff they've written about it. It jumped the tracks a lot. If you're on it when it did, you had to jump off and help the engineer pick it up with levers and put it back on. But it stayed here until 1967. Had a great run in this town, almost 80 years. It's also the last building here on the water that is Rollins. So everything to the right of that is private homes and condos. There is a cypress right in front of us with a bushy plant below. It's called, the bushy plant is Egyptian papyrus. They used to make paper from it. The tree to the left of the cypress is a live oak, which is about 200 years old. And I gave you a little Rollins history, just a little bit about the story of Winter Park. Rollins, I've mentioned 1885. The town itself was started by a couple New Englanders just 4 years prior to that, 1881. The train had come through, which we still have coming through, but that came through in 1880. So now you had a way to get people here. And the guys that started the town really fell in love with these lakes and how pretty it was around them, but also how close it was to the train track. So they bought 600 acres. They platted the town, which is considered to be the first planned community in Florida, so it looked like today's plat. They started marketing to wealthy Northerners to build only winter homes here, and that's why it's called Winter Park. And they really did build some amazing homes and brought some interesting folks too. And then when Rollins got here, and it still does this, it just brought a lot of culture and intelligent folks. And actually just 1 year after Rollins, they built the largest hotel in the state here. So in 1886, they built a hotel called the Seminole Hotel, which used to be where the Platchik is, basically. That really made the town famous as a resort town. Matter of fact, even U.S. presidents started coming down, so a lot was going on back then. Unfortunately, it burned down in 1902. It really did get the ball rolling. And we've had other hotels. Matter of fact, I will definitely
get a
talk
picture of
about
the
our
bridge
newest later,
before?
but you know, that really is what put Winter Park on the map. Yeah, 81 now, yeah. CVS built a much bigger house right next. No, they did. I'm just making sure you all listening to me. So that would be your fake news alternative fact of the trip, but which I made up, but the long report. It's a Georgia revival home built in 1889. The gentleman that had it built was from a town called Cortland, New York. I mean, you guys are up there near the Adirondacks, actually close to Syracuse. He liked it here. He wanted to live here in the winter. I mentioned this was a place for winter homes. His wife did not want to come here. She thought Florida was a wilderness. So to entice her to come down, which it actually kind of was a wilderness, but he built a replica of their Cortland home. So they wound up with 2 of those, and really liked it here. The town was very small and everybody knew each other. So, and this is a big house, so it became a place to hang out and have a little social life back there.
The point. What a spot.
Yeah. It's like they own the whole point.
This house to our right was designed by an architect named James Gamble Rogers, and from the 1930s through 50s, he definitely was a favorite architect of Winter Park. This is one of his last homes. It's Bermuda style, and he designed it so that every room would look onto the lake, and of course it has the white beach, and they just raked it. Lake sand's darker than that. Might not be true, but the rumor is that the original white sand was brought in from Daytona Beach. Looks like the loggers that dug it had a few cocktails before they did. This doesn't go straight at all. So definitely stay seated in this one. The lawn to the right of it with the statue, they filmed a Nike commercial on that with Magic players about 16 years ago. The statue faces north. We call that southern exposure here on Lake Osceola. You know, in my opinion at least, one of the best things to do in this town is just drive around the historic district, which is what we've been staying in here. And this is the north part, Rollins Beach South. We're getting ready to go under a bridge right here. This is a road called Palmer Avenue, and as soon as we go under Palmer, there will be a road on our right we won't see right away called Alabama Drive, which circles in and out of Palmer. We will see it a little later, and that's definitely, you know, one of the favorite drives here in Winter Park. Yep. The park, the Palmer,
another bridge
Alabama. Yeah, you know what? There's still, it is a relatively old bridge, but I'll tell you what, it's so pretty. But there are some wood pilings right next to it from the original bridge here. Depends on how clear the water is, but usually sometimes, yeah, you can see those old pilings down here, made of wood. Sorry.
Look at that. Quite the boat slits, huh?
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah, there's a few of them.
Regular garage door on that one.
Yeah.
African Queen.
Garages on the water.
too, because it leads to just a little more lake ecology. So the question was, which makes sense, but I mentioned the lakes are kind of high for this time of year because
Christmas
it's usually
decoration.
dry or a dry season. The question was, do we have flooding? The homes don't flood because there is a dam, a river called Weir, Creek. All these announcements for Howe Creek. So it's on the other side of Lake Maitland. Howe Creek goes over there. That's what eventually goes to St. John's. And so the dam does keep these lakes pretty much from flooding. The highest I've ever seen them was right after Irma, though. So they did close these lakes for 3 weeks, although the homes didn't flood. St. John's, Irma took them.
The site
was the lead state. So St. John's got really high, and it took a while to drain these out, but not high enough to actually flood the homes. They just didn't want people making a wake to have waves on people's yards.
How it doesn't quite fit.
However, that same year,
Spring poor
2017,
planting, if you ask
they
me.
started the year with a drought, and the lakes were so low at one point we couldn't get through this canal. So we were stuck on 2 lakes for a while. So the lake levels changed that year in these canal levels, obviously, over 5 feet. So they can change.
Yeah. Little sewer right
And this is Lake Maitland, which is the largest lake on the chain, about 420 called the Alabama Hotel. It's on Alabama Drive. And it was famous. Folks like Sinclair Lewis, H.G. Wells spent a lot of time there. Actually, Margaret Mitchell penned the last chapter of Gone with the Wind while she was a guest there. And it just basically ran its course in the 70s, so they did abandon it for a few years, but converted it to a condo in 1980, which
So if you're enjoying the videos, folks, please like, share, but most importantly, subscribe. You'd be amazed what you'll see if you get off the couch. Have a great day.